Hey everyone, I am so excited. I got this big box of goodies from Honeybee Stamps. They have asked me to share some videos with you guys using their products. I have been using their products in my creative journey art retreats in person and virtual, and I've used them for Get Crackin' on Christmas. But I'm really excited to kind of have this focused goal of sharing more frequently with you with their awesome products. So this is just the beginning of more Janabling to come and hopefully more inspiration. This box was amazing, you guys. Look at all the fun goodies I am going to inspire you with. So if you guys haven't checked out Honeybee Stamps, now is the time. Oh my gosh. It's like Christmas. It is like Christmas. It's like Christmas. And you guys know I love a good mini die cut machine, so I can't wait to try this out. And it just was never ending, this box. So I just had to share with you guys the fun goodies that they sent to me, and I'll be sharing more inspiration with you guys as time allows. But let's get started with this video that I have for you guys today. I'm going to be using the new Saint Nick stamp set. I love a good Santa Claus. I think they are so fun. I love to see the different personalities and characteristics from different stamps of Santa Claus. And so I just had to use this stamp set. So I inked it up and stamped it in the Inktense black ink pad, and I'm going to be coloring with Copic markers, which are alcohol-based markers today. I keep my Copic coloring pretty simple. I'm usually a two-color blender, but this image is a bit larger, so I am going to be using three colors for some of the areas. And I love to use non-traditional colors for holiday cards. So you will often see a pink Santa Claus from me. It makes me happy. I live on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and our fall and late fall and winter months are gray and dreary, and I love to just do a splash of bright color during the holiday season. So I am coloring Santa's suit with some bright pinks. I'm using RV14, RV13, and RV21. I'm starting by working my way around his jacket and laying down wherever the shadow is going to be. I'm also working on his hat, you can see here. And so this is going to be my darkest color with the RV13. And then as I go to blend out different areas of his suit, I am going to work in one small area, getting that to look exactly the way I would like it to, and then move on to another area. If you're coloring with alcohol-based markers, alcohol evaporates quickly, so you don't want to work in too large of an area at once. You're just going to kind of make more work for yourself, having to add more and more color. So I added the RV13 to blend out that first color of RV14, and then I did a little bit of a highlight with the RV21. Any awkward lines that I see, I go back with my middle color, my RV13, and kind of flick out the marker to soften any of those harsh lines. And so you can see I'm just making my way around all the parts of Santa's suit, but just working in small areas, not doing not doing RV13 throughout the whole suit and then RV21. I'm doing it in sections. I think some of the fun of creating our own cards is we really can play with different color combinations and different color palettes. I think this Santa would look amazing with a teal suit as well. I'm a huge fan of teal, and so I think that might be coming down coming down the pipeline next when I get a chance to color him again. But so I am just working. I know I'm going to be cutting this out with the coordinating die set, so I'm not super worried what the bottom looks like. I just wanted to make sure I added some color in there so it'll fill in the space when I go to die cut him. So here we go. We just finished up Thanksgiving here in the United States, and I know everybody is in full on holiday mode. You'll also have to let me know in the comments if you've gotten some holiday cards done. Have you started shipping them out to family and friends yet? I do a fun series all throughout the year where I do Get Crackin' on Christmas, where I make holiday cards all year long. So on the third Thursday of the month, I share a holiday card. And then once a month, I also go live and share with you guys how I made that holiday card over on my YouTube channel. So this time of year is no longer stressful for me. I always have a good stack of holiday cards created and ready to go. Although I'll be completely honest, sitting down and filling them out and addressing them, that's a whole nother story. I am really bad. I don't often put my cards on card bases, so that's always time consuming. And then I like to stamp and date the back and then, write a special message per person and then the envelopes. And then I feel like my addresses are never organized like I would like them to be. And so, anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day. But let me know in the comments how you guys are doing, if you've got some holiday cards ready to go, or if you've already started shipping them out to your friends and family. I do know it's worth it. I know that people look forward to getting my cards and they save my cards for years to come. So I'll get there a little bit, maybe in the evenings. So now I'm going to color Santa's mittens, and I wanted to make sure that they kind of stood out against the pink suit, although I am still going to be coloring them with a pink tone to them. But instead of the RV 14 being the darkest color, I brought in R35, which is a really nice warm pinky red. And so with that being my darkest color, and then doing RV14 and then RV13, it's just going to make the mittens be a bit darker than the suit, especially with that left hand where it's draped across his belly. I wanted to make sure that it still stood out and you could tell like that these were his mittens. So I'm adding some color to those. And a favorite combo of mine is, if you wanted to do a traditional red Santa suit, my favorite red combo would be R35 and R29. R29 being the darkest of the two, but again, using that R35, it just has a nice warm pink undertone to it, and I just love that look when it comes to using red. So here we go. I'm coloring that mitten that's against his belly. So you're going to see just adding that R35 into the mix really just helps set it apart from all the rest of the pink on his Santa suit. I mean, I kind of want this Santa suit. Nice and bright and jolly. So now I'm going to go ahead and start to color his belt. So I am doing a little bit of the T8. I've been using the T's, which are a toner gray, a lot over this past year or so. They have a little bit of a cooler tone to them than a warm gray, but I find that they're much easier to blend than the cool grays, the C's in the Copic line. So I've really been enjoying the T's. So I did a little bit of T8 and I'm blending out and filling in with T6. It's not a dramatic shade or shadow, but it's just enough to give it a little bit of a different look so that it doesn't just look all one color. And then I'm going to be doing the trim of the belt with T4 just to give it kind of a nice little highlight. Again, the dark colors like this that are gonna represent some sort of black or dark gray, they're tricky. But again, adding these two colors just gives a little bit of definition. And I just love the richness of the teas. I think it's such a pretty, pretty gray. You can see here now I'm using that T4 to do the highlight of the belt. As I went down along the bottom here, I realized I needed a little bit more pink, so I'm gonna dab in a little bit of RV13 here. And next we're gonna do his belt buckle. So I'm using Y17 and Y15. I'm gonna be using these for his buttons on his jacket as well. Using that Y17 to add just a little bit of a shadow, and then going in with the Y15. Whenever I'm coloring something that's very light, yellows, oranges, very light pinks, I'll often use the dark marker, blend out with a light marker, and then I just quickly go right back in with the dark marker to just add a little bit more definition. And while your cardstock is still saturated from that first color, your darkest color, and from the blending, going back in with that dark color as your last step, it will kind of soak in and you won't need to do a whole lot of blending. But it's really nice because it does add a little bit of that definition back in that you kind of lose a little bit when you're blending out the lighter colors. And again, I like to do that with the yellows and pinks um, and oranges. Yeah. So here I'm coloring in his little bell, and then I am using those toner grays again just to color in the center part of the bell. I do not know what that's called. The thing that actually rings the bell ringer. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I often am doing coloring guides for my online classes, so I've learned a lot of new terms when I'm doing my coloring guides. And so if I was doing a coloring guide for this right now, I'd be looking up what are the parts of a bell. So now we're going to color in the holly in his hat. I'm using YG05 and YG09 just to put a little bit of definition into those holly leaves. Again, brighter colors, a little bit more on the neon side and less on the traditional side. And I'm using that R35 on the berries. I didn't bother to do multiple colors on the berries. They're so teeny, and I'm going to be adding some glossy accents to them at the very end. So I felt one color would be good enough. So now I am coloring in Santa's skin. So I'm using E02 for the shadow, E00 to blend it out. This is going to be a really quick blend because they are very light in color. So the blending happens fairly quickly. And this is another instance where you'll see I am going to go back in with the E02 again and just add in a little bit more definition. So I just love his face. I love all those little crevices, his jolly cheeks, his little lip peeking out from his beard. I just think he's the cutest. I had so much fun coloring him. So here I am adding that E02 back in. And then it wouldn't be Santa if we didn't give him even more rosy cheeks. So I am using R20 and doing a few layers of some rosy cheeks and a little bit on his nose. You can build up the colors and the layers of your one marker just by adding more and more on top of it, on top of each other. So that's what I did on his cheeks. To add a little bit of definition on his beard and his mustache and his hair and his eyebrows, I'm using that W2 marker and just quickly using the stamp as a guide. I am just dabbing a little bit on the lines that were already there for me. And this is very subtle, doesn't do a whole lot, but it does just give a little bit of definition. I wasn't sure what I wanted to color the seam of his jacket, so I kind of was leaving that, but I decided to use those toner grays, and so I added that color. And now I'm using BG10, similar to like what I did with his beard and mustache and hair. I'm just accenting the lines on the stamped image and adding just a subtle shadow with that light blue. I'm going to set him aside and start working on my background. I'm using spun sugar regular distress ink, and I'm doing some ink blending with the Honeybee Stamps blending brushes. I'm working directly on my table surface because it is made of glass. And so I ink up my blender brush, I tap it on the glass just to kind of release a little bit of the ink, and then I start ink blending. I'm using Distress White Heavy Stock, which is my most favorite cardstock to use for ink blending. It really does matter what tools you use, what supplies you use, and finding that combo that works best for you. And again, I found using the Distress White Heavy Stock, I get a really nice blend. I'm just cleaning up my table surface with a little isopropyl alcohol in a misting bottle. I always have a flour sackcloth in my lap for all those inky messes that I tend to make. And I'm using the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station to hold my paper and stencil in place. Whenever I'm doing a full blend across the whole background of a card, I do like to use that Tombow removable adhesive on the back of my cardstock to just make sure I'm really holding that in place in case I'm moving the magnets around to get around the stencil in an easier way. Now I'm using the Nordic Winter stencil, and I'm using the first stencil, the one that has more of the design throughout the stencil. And I'm using Kitsch Flamingo Distress ink, and I am adding that color all throughout the whole stencil. You can see how I'm able to move my magnets around to get to different areas of my background. I really love this Wendy Vecchi station. When I am using stencils, it makes it so much easier and it really makes me want to use my stencils so much more. I'm also using the ink stands to hold my ink pads, another favorite tool of mine and one that I use every day. So now I'm using the second stencil in the Nordic stencil set, and I'm lining the stencil up, which is really easy to do because I followed the grid on my Wendy Vecchi station, and I remembered how many squares over and down I placed the first stencil, so it made lining up the second stencil super easy. I'm using Worn Lipstick Distress ink to add in the detail on this stencil. And I just love this color combo. It's so pretty. And I just know that my pink Santa is going to look so cute against it. I can't wait. So I am ink blending the whole background, making sure I get every little area. And then it's the reveal. Always exciting, right? So here we go. You can see the background, super soft and pretty. And I'm going to use that isopropyl alcohol again just to clean off my station, my table space, and then I also just use it to do a quick clean of my stencils. I love using this method because you just don't have to wait for anything to dry and I can put them away right away. So this is how I always clean my stencils when I'm using a water-based ink pad. So I've die cut the Santa with the coordinating stamp set or die set, excuse me. And I realized that little white part, which is, the background, was bothering me. So I took my R20 marker and I colored it in to kind of match the background so that when he's laying over this stenciled background, um, it it won't look odd. And I rubbed off the removable adhesive and I trimmed my background down to be 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to be matting it on a nice warm dark pink. And I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to position him. So I wanted to get my sentiment figured out before I made any commitments. Lots of great sentiments in this set, a lot of really funny ones. You know, I can explain kind of caught my eye in case maybe I have some explanations to give Santa before he delivers any gifts to me this Christmas season. So I'm going to use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink pad, which is what I use for sentiments all the time, a nice crisp black ink pad. I'm stamping that sentiment on some white cardstock, and I am going to die cut it with the coordinating die. I love when companies have a coordinating die for the sentiments like this. Oh, it just makes my heart happy. So I'm using some low tack tape to hold the die in place, and I'm going to run it through my Honeybee Stamps die cut machine. I'm so excited. They sent this to me, and I'm really excited to try it out and play with it more and more. I love having a mini die cut machine on my table, and I found that it really makes card making so much easier and more efficient. So I'm going to add Santa to this background with some foam squares, but I actually decided I wanted to kind of have him go off the edge a little bit, and I'm going to trim a little bit off of his bottom and his side. So I'm adding lots of foam squares to Jolly St. Nick here, and then I am going to add it to the stenciled background. You can see I'm like, do I need another one? I need it to be a little bit smaller. I love how these foam squares are super easy to cut and make them the size that you need. So I am peeling them all off. I'm being really good because I'm on camera here. I'm putting all my backings into my little jar that is always on my table, but often not used. I just fling them everywhere. So I am sticking him down, and you can see there's just a little bit of an overhang. I'm just going to take my scissors and trim along the edge. And then I am going to add this to the pink cardstock, and I'm going to add it flat with my ATG gun. I always use this for my bigger panels. And I'm even, look at me, adding it to a card base, you guys. So this one will be ready to go out. So now I'm just trying to decide where I want this sentiment. And I really think just kind of coming out of his armpit here was the best spot. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam squares behind half of the sentiment, but half of it is overlapping his coat. So I'm going to use the wet glue here to add a little bit of that where it's going to touch down onto his coat. Perfect. And now it would not be a holiday card, and it most certainly wouldn't be a Jen Shirkus card if I didn't glitter all of the things. So for the trim of his jacket and his hat and the pom-pom of his hat, I am using the wet glue, Honeybee Stamps wet glue here, and I am then going to sprinkle some Distress Rock Candy. It is going to look pretty cloudy and white right now until the glue dries clear. But this is just a fun texture. It adds a little bit of sparkle, and it really just makes this look like the trim of a Santa suit. And I just love, love, love the way it looks. So I keep my Distress Rock Candy in this container here, you can see, and I always have a spoon ready to go. And so once I get enough glue on here, I am going to scoop some of the glitter and then tap it off. I just do little areas at a time and tap the excess glitter off right into the container so there's no mess. And again, if you know me, maybe you don't know me just yet, but that's not enough glitter for me. So I'm going to use my Quickie glue pen and some ultrafine Prisma glitter, and I'm going to fill in his belt buckle and his buttons. And I'm also going to add a little bit to the bell. But when I have something really big like this that I'm adding glitter to, I don't want to dip the whole panel into the glitter. So I'm using the cap that I put on the back of the pen like a scoop. And so I scoop up a little bit of that glitter and place it exactly where I want and tap off the excess. So you can see I added a little bit to the bell as well. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm going to add a little bit of glossy accents to the berries. I like having this baby bottle of glossy accents. I think that it doesn't clog as much and it's easier to handle. And so the berries are going to have a little bit of dimension and shine to them as well. So you can see it's all nice and sparkly. And here it is after it has dried. So we can see all that detail on the trim of Santa's suit. And I don't know about you guys, but this looks like a super holly jolly Santa Claus to me. I hope that you enjoyed this video with me today. And like I said, I will be back soon to share more inspiration with Honeybee stamps with you guys again soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye.